Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jenn DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl and contributor Robyn Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
Thank you for listening to the Women in Vinyl podcast. I'm Jenn.
And I'm Robyn.
And today we're talking to Lisa Fancher, sole owner of Frontier Records and responsible for some of our very first punk rock records. So I'm lucky in that I get to work with Lisa to press some of her records for the label. So I'm really excited to have her on today. She's really paved the way for a lot of women-run record labels.
I mean, yes, you're so lucky. This is my first interaction with her, even though apparently I know some of the people that she knows, and that just blows my little mind too. But like, get ready for the fangirl show. I have so many questions for her. I mean, I have questions about Miami Vice. I wanted to ask questions about Don Johnson, and I didn't quite get there. But there are sneak peeks into Repo Man, MTV. Nothing was off the table with Lisa Fancher. She was a saint. And she answered every single question I could ever imagine. I'm so stoked.
If I'm not paying attention to you for whatever reason, just wave your arms wildly and be like, shut up. Oh, look at that cool Adolescence record behind you. Who put that out?
I know, just for you.
Staging.
So what made you want to start a label?
Let's see, way back when. I didn't really have any purpose in life at all, and I was working at another label called BOMP, B-O-M-P Records, doing mail orders and things. So I had done I worked in record stores, of course, and I had a fanzine called Biff Bang Pow, and I tried to live in London very briefly, and I came back, and I had already completely dropped out of college, and I knew I wasn't going back. And I was like, I'll just put out one record and see what happens. So I kind of had the germination of it in like 78. And the first record came out in 1980, the Flyboys record. And that took me, I don't know, well over a year and a half because I didn't really know what I was doing. Plus I was trying to record at night after my day job. So the whole thing was kind of a fiasco. And then they broke up before the record even came out. So that's how the first record went. But I just figured, I worked at BOMP, so I just figured I knew how to do all the things that you did and make a record cover. And, so I was like, I'm going to try that and see what happens.
And for those that don't know, what was BOMP?
BOMP was an indie label. It wasn't the first indie label, but it was one of the first rock indie labels, I would say, after the 60s, glory days. And they put out things like the Flamin' Groovies, but they were also big on the LA punk scene. They put out the Weirdos and the Zeros. A lot of Stiv Bators records. He was hilarious. He used to come in the office. But he didn't like what I was doing. I mean, he was candid about it. I would be like, oh, I like the Flyboys, and I'd play it for him. And he'd be like, this stuff's terrible. He just didn't get, the newer punk stuff at all.
And you were doing some writing as well?
Yes, I did. I wrote besides working in record stores, I wrote for the LA Times very briefly. A few reviews, and I wrote for the Herald Examiner for a couple years. I don't know if you're familiar with Ken Tucker. He's now on NPR, but he was my boss. Nice. So he would send me in to write about like Pat Benatar. I mean, I wrote about a lot of punk stuff, but he would send me in for the Clay Pigeons to just destroy them. So that was fun too. I don't know if it helped me out much in Frontier because I'd run into the same people, and they were like really mad at the time that I had, destroyed, whatever big sticks or something. So I don't know how much that really helped me out, but it was fun.
I mean, that's steeped in punk rock credit right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, they would just send me one of the most horrifying shows. Number one was like Journey and Styx. I had to review that, stuff like that. Yeah, just that always hated, never had any fondness. So now that everybody's all, gets weepy about that stuff, like, oh no. You guys can like Rush, but no.
I mean, as the sole Canadian on this little conversation, I'm gonna take the point and be like, I feel like I'm the only Canadian that doesn't like Rush, so yeah. I get you.
But I was gonna say everybody gets lumped into everything, and I was like, you can have Rush, but no, Styx or like there's no nostalgia for that stuff. Yeah. Nope.
I mean, I kind of get down on Lights, like. That's a little bit of a lighters in the air kind of tune, but the rest of them, I mean, now that every university in the world has just like determined that that's going to be their wing night song playlist, I'm like, okay, we're good. Move it along.
Oh, man.
So how did you wind up writing the liner notes for the Runaways?
I didn't work at Bomp yet, but I knew Greg Shaw.
Yeah.
And I was like, he had done a magazine in LA called Phonograph Record. He had Bomp magazine, who put the Bomp magazine, of course. Yeah. So I had written him a letter and I was like, I'm better than anybody on your staff, so you should let me write for your magazine. And I was like 15 or 16. So him and Kim Fowley were trying to put together a girl band, any girl band at all. I don't know if you ever saw the ad that was in Bomp, but they just wanted, on a Malcolm McLaren level, they want to put together a girl band.
Right.
That they literally got no responses whatsoever. But then Kim started just going to clubs and putting the Runaways together.
Yeah.
And Kim tagged me. I was their Dorothy Parker, he said. So while I was trying to go to high school, I would go to shows like he would, I'd wind up in the van with them and we'd play some weird, not even nightclubs, but like movie theaters, just weird stuff. So they played a bunch of shows and it was a 3-piece before Cherie was in the band. Mickey Steele from the Bagels. And anyway, so that morphed into the Cherie Curry one. And I wrote a feature-length thing for Bomp. It was a cover of Bomp magazine. And I guess they were looking for liner notes and didn't want to pay extra. I don't know what happened. But anyway, so a chunk of that wound up in the album cover. And they spelled my name Fancher. So that was 2 thumbs up. But I got them to play my high school.
Oh, yeah.
And if you thought that they hated me before the Runaways played, because everybody liked prog rock. I graduated in 76, so everybody loved Pink Floyd and whatever stoner dipshit movies, and I like Patti Smith. I had a radio show in the Quad, and everybody hated it. I could see them putting their fingers in their ears, like they just hated every single band that I loved.
Yes.
Here I am playing Television's Orc single, and they're like, oh, this is terrible.
Oh, man.
So anyway, they played my high school. Pretty much everybody just got up en masse and was like, oh, God, this is the worst music I've ever. But now I've noticed, like those things like Classmates, they all say they were at the show. I was like, oh,
right.
Really?
And you're like, oh, I remember you running away from the Runaways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were the guys that said they had no chops because they didn't have, I'm trying to think. Lita Ford it was pretty early on. I'm not sure if Lita was in the band or if it was just a 3-piece. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I didn't even bring a camera. I didn't have any kind of camera.
Well, of course not. So, I mean, that's part of the whole punk rock lore, right?
Exactly. That's for the course.
Thing. I feel like you need to find that ad and like make a T-shirt.
Oh, I think it might. Okay, you know what? Our website isn't live. Anyway, we used to have it on our thing, but you can find it if you Google like Polytechnica. You can find it. And it was super fun seeing them, turn into something. I mean, they never got huge, but they were a lot of fun.
I mean, it seems like a lot of the bands that you interacted with had a little bit of a launch pad, like from your
they never got to being like well known, but they kind of did a little something. Like I hung around with the Screamers and stuff like that, and they kind of got to be the big LA band for a while. But
totally.
No household names, but that's good.
I mean, it depends on what household you're in, Mama.
Yeah, I know.
I have a lot of your roster in my show.
I was going to say. The occasional Lyft driver, they'll go, what do you do? And I'll be like, I have an indie label, knowing that they won't have heard of anybody. But usually they've heard of Suicidal, and they'll be like, all right. Or they'll say, I had that when I was 1 year old, whatever it is. I'm like, thanks.
Great.
Great.
Obviously, I know about the label and that it started in the 80s, and it was funny because we just did another panel this past weekend, and someone was asking about mastering in the 80s, and we were like, well, none of us were
even alive, so I don't know.
Well,
I wouldn't say it's really, honestly, the same guy cuts my records, Johnny Golden, that used to cut a McCabe disc in the 80s, so things haven't really changed that much.
that was going to be one of my questions is like, who's your guy?
He's my guy. I use Paul DeGray is my EQ master, my analog shaman. Amazing. That even if the record was recorded digitally, like he will make it sound analog.
Yeah.
So he pre-EQs things, but he also preserves all my tapes because obviously you can imagine what kind of shape the tapes are in after 80 years if I have to go back and digitally remaster it. So he's that guy. And then I send everything over to K-Disc. And, I've used more expensive places like Bernie Grundman and you name it, Capitol. I've done everybody. But, just because Johnny Golden might be half of Bernie Grundman doesn't mean it's no good. Just up to everybody how much you want to spend.
I mean, it's all about, and I work at a mastering studio in Canada. So I'm a lathe cutter. I'm the only record cutter in Canada.
There was a woman at K-Disc forever named Carol, and I can't remember her last name, but she was started as a recording engineer, but she was one of the very few women lathe cutters that I had ever seen in my whole life.
Yeah, it's like a pretty weird little crew still, but I mean, it's all about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's all about like finding somebody that gets your band. I mean, so, and that's kind of the thing, like Frontier has always had like a sound, so even though your roster is so diverse,
right.
There's definitely a sound there. So, I mean, that definitely comes from the mastering for sure. So
absolutely. And only somewhere down the line did I realize how important plating was. Cause I'd be like, let the pressing plant do it. And then when I don't even remember who insisted on going to a separate facility for plating. And I was like, very slowly, I'm, having to redip everything and make mothers or stampers. And so all of the old icky rainbow, like the pressings that people have, they'll go, wow, this sounds great now. If they happen to get the same record over again.
And they do.
Yeah. They have to, at some point, they'll have to get a new one.
Yeah.
And what was it like pressing back then, finding a plant and what were the pressing plants like?
So I grew up in beautiful Sun Valley, California, which is a joke that nobody would get unless you live in Southern California. But it's very near Burbank, but it's just a terrible, like the biggest, most famous thing there is a gravel pit. And so there was a pressing plant called Alco there. And that's where I decided to do the circle jerks. I don't know why, I guess convenience, like I could load up my car quicker or something. And those guys just kept putting me off. Like I made the deal with the band. The record was completely done. Like in June, and they just I'd be like, when am I going to get my records? When am I going to get my records? And I have test pressings from there and I never pressed anything. Rainbow came and picked up all the jackets, the mothers, the stampers, and labels, all that stuff. Took it over to Rainbow. It used to be in Santa Monica. So I was there an awfully long time. And, but pressing plants, I don't know. It was kind of the same. Oh, I went to another crazy place. Its name escapes me. For everybody in Los Angeles used G&M labels. Like they had the blanks. It didn't matter the 60s or whatever, but used G&M. There's a place right on the corner for them and they opened a new place. So I thought I'd have like plan B because Rainbow is, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But the owners were these weird swingers. I guess I shouldn't tell a story. Anyway, I was like, ran away with my stuff. I was like, ew. I was like, I'm just going to stay at Rainbow. I'm not going to go looking around or try to have these guys on my part of town. And that, so I think they're mobs. They got shut down. Make a long story short, they got shut down. So.
Oh, shoot.
There was all kinds of weirdos. And then there was people that are around forever that had very distinctive pressings. There's a place called Alberti. If you have certain 45s, you would know Alberti. They made those super hard cardboard sleeves and the small hole. It was, it was just very distinctive. All those people are like every single one of them, just as vinyl. When major labels tried to replace vinyl with CDs, and even Bill Smith died. That's that Berger used them and that plan is gone. So
what were turn times like?
You know what? It was no problem at all. I wouldn't say a week or anything, but I don't know. I don't know if I ever wait other than the circle jerks. I don't think I ever waited more than a month, maybe.
Wow.
But, those were the days, when CDs were hot, it was like making a CD is now, which is like, you couldn't give an album away. So it just wasn't really like a big thing. Now is another story. And you'll be glad to know, I'm sure you know that Europe is exactly the same because I'm doing a double Christian Death record that goes in a box set that somebody else is putting out. And I just asked my buddies at Munster and they're like, oh yeah, it's 6 months over here too. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
So, until things change, it's going to be a while for everything.
Yeah, totally.
And how has the kind of resurgence, quote unquote, of vinyl affected production and everything for you?
It just made life kind of, because COVID wasn't enough. Waiting for 6 months for, a new release or even a repress has just made things like great, because things are selling really well because everybody's sitting around their house buying records online. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, awesome, we're out of Suicidal. And then they'd be like, oh, I can't have them for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months or something like that. So it's made things challenging for sure. We've never quite been completely out, but it's a squeaker.
Did you notice that using Bandcamp, because I noticed you guys moved your basic website over to kind of be more inclusive with Bandcamp. Have you guys really used Bandcamp as your primary source right now?
Yeah, our website's been down. We had, it's no fault of the world at large, but, one person after the next will take the job on and abandon it. So We've just left it, the working page, click Bandcamp, buy stuff. But yes, Bandcamp has been unbelievable. We were in early, it's more like made for artists. Yeah. But we're just going to become the artist and we're just going to use it as our main platform. And it's great because, we do offer download cards in our records, but if you just want that, you can buy it there. You don't have to go to Amazon or one of the big retailers. So we love Bandcamp. It's just so easy. And, people can communicate with you directly or, hey, can you tell Kurt from the Lilies? I got a show for, whatever it is. So It's just like a really, really great resource. Can't say enough. What a great idea that was.
Yeah. Do you think that they're going to incorporate some kind of a playlist / streaming option to kind of take on Spotify or Tidal or any of those other?
I would love that if they did.
I think it would be amazing.
Because I am not a Spotify fan. I could go on a whole podcast about that.
Me too.
Why the majors sold all of us out to that for such horrible money, I don't know, but it's just terrible. And my own friends that I know and love will go, I don't buy records anymore. I just listen to Spotify because it's so convenient. And I'll be like, stop right there. But, I'm going to kill my cat. Stop doing that.
Uh-oh. Jen's a cat lover. Careful.
This one is down there because I'm talking. I don't know if you can see her. She's down there playing with her toys. And making all her noise.
That's why I had to shut the door.
That's right. I should have locked her up, but she would only start screaming. So there's just no way to control Dolly. But no, it basically started out as a bootleg service, right? It was like a different kind of LimeWire, but you would just listen to it. Yeah. So the majors got millions of dollars up front to settle, not suing them into the ground. Mm-hmm. So they got all their money up front. And it's just the worst money in the world. And people don't want records. So, perfect. And it's like the number one thing. Everybody's like, Spotify playlist. So it'd be great. If Bandcamp took them on, I would be so about that.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to be the next move with them, like starting their pressing service. Uh-huh. I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with, a playlist to this and,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a massive channel now, Bandcamp. It's like I can't keep up. Like I'll buy a Stiff Richards. You know how Amazon makes terrible recommendations? Their algorithm is like, why would I buy that? But Bandcamps will be amazing. Like if you like Stiff Richards, go check out these people from Wales or whatever. It'll be like the same. Like, oh my God. Yeah. So I can see why everybody's just buying all their records on there because it's so, until you can really go back into a record store whenever you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you get people still sending you demos or anything?
You know what? I really don't. I'm on some weird mailing lists where I get nothing but hip hop, and I like hip hop, but I'm not going to start. I'm not going to branch out, but I get seriously like 10 or 11 emails, here's my beats, check them out. And I'll be like, how did I get on this list? But as far as somebody's mailing something in the mail, like, 2 or 3 times a year, because we used to get groaning bags of CDs and cassettes and all that kind of stuff. And I actually say, when we get our website, and I am working on it, we're going to put the pictures that I saved. Oh my God, you will pee in your pants when you see the tapes that we got and the letters.
Yes.
Amazing. The whole band with their guns, just crazy shit.
That kind of leads into a question that I have, being that you're looking kind of down the barrel of the 40th anniversary of Frontier.
It was last year, so we're just extending that. Yeah, we're just
21 now.
We're just moving that on forward because we had all kinds of stuff planned, and all of it just went kablooey. So,
is there going to be like an archive or any kind of like history of Frontier or anything like that? Like, I mean, it would be, I know Amanda, one of the other ladies on the board of Women in Vinyl, she's an archivist, and I know she would
so she should do it.
She would be gagged over doing it.
I'd probably love to.
No, because I have totally amazing stuff. Like I have, Michael Corsia's lyrics in the 3 o'clock. Like I have all the stuff, but somebody has to want to scan it and like load it once I get the website completely running and we have an archive section. Because I have incredible, whatever it is, postcards from Elliott Smith, whatever the hell it is. So Amanda's got the job. So you tell her.
Done.
Gets to go in that garage. I was digging around for tapes a couple of days ago, and I have the original artwork for the Rain Parade single on Down Kitty, and I was like, what is this doing in my garage? Like the photos and everything, like the paste up boards and all that.
Amazing.
I don't know. I mean, I used to know all of them, but I don't know if somebody said, hey, hold on to this for me. I don't know.
That's kind of what I did with my mom too. I was like, hey, can you hang on to these while I move across the country?
And it's like, here it is.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Are there records from the archives too that you're thinking about trying to put out?
I think I've pretty much milked everything about as much as I can. The one thing that I didn't do that I wish I had is, I had enough money to make a record. So we already knew what songs it was. And it wasn't like, hey, we're going to put out a record with 11 songs. So record 7 more so I can have bonus stuff or, a double record. So there's almost nothing. I have no extra Suicidal stuff. I could take it and remix it and, make dub tapes out of it or whatever. But I don't really have extra stuff. So pretty much, unless something weird became popular again, like Naked Prey, the stuff that's out is stuff's on Bandcamp's pretty much what you're going to see. I always hope the world will rediscover Flop, and I'd love to, put that out on vinyl again. But if there's no demand for it, mail order only.
I mean, I know a lathe cutter that could do a short run for you.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk. I have not done any lathe cuts, and we talked to Kurt about doing that. But then now I'm kind of afraid if we only did, I don't know, whatever, 100, that people would just kill us. Like they'd just be like, that's not enough.
I mean, that's the genius part of it. I did like 125 for a band singer guy up here, and they're going for like $300 on Discogs because people.
Ooh, then I'm doing it.
Yeah, holler. Amanda will do your archiving. I'll do your name.
Yeah. I got it all in house now. No, but we haven't done this. So it's something we talked about, and we even talked about it with the record I just put out by them, Brief History of Amazing Letdowns. Yep. But we just didn't get around to it. We were so happy when we got the records from Furnace, so we're like, I don't have any energy for anything else. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is good. And it took us we sold out of them in an hour and a half, and we're just like, what is going on with this world?
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Except the part where you got to mail them out. Like selling them is awesome, and seeing the money come in and the emails, and then mailing them, not very awesome. I should talk about my fabulous distributor because I co-own it. Because I'm sure you guys have heard of Beer City Records. Yeah, you guys should talk to Mike because he does skateboards and records.
Nice.
Awesome.
But he and I were not in the same place. I was with Mordam. Mordam sold to, oh God, I can't remember. Doghouse, the guy from Doghouse. Lumberjack Records. So that we were with them. They folded, stiffed everybody. Oh. The employees from whatever it's called, Lumberjack, started a new thing called ILC. The owner became a raging drug addict, so we got stiffed again. So within like 3 years, like we just were out of so much money, and just like it was just horrible. All our digital money was gone. So anyway, Mike and I started ILD in 2011, late 2011. Mm-hmm. And it's just tiny. We just, we don't have a ton of labels. We have Sympathy and Dionysus and some metal labels, and but it's in Milwaukee, so it's kind of in the center of the country, much more than being in LA, which everybody hates dealing with California, shipping all things all the way out here. So
right.
Even though I co-own my distributor, my partner Mike Beer understands that there will be a mail order. For a new release, I'll always do a special color for Frontier. So we did 400 lilies, thinking that was, I don't know, probably like a month's supply, or based on the sales of the other things. And I woke up in the morning, and we put on sale at 8 a.m. And there was just like pages, like my whole inbox was just like the receipt. And so from 8 to about, it was about an hour and a half. It had completely sold out. And me and Julie are like, oh my God. Because it was like good news, bad news. Because then we're like, how long it's going to take us to mail out 400 records? And the foreign ones, like they had bought other records. So sometimes it was like three, like, oh my God. So we had to have a whole assembly in my backyard, like a motion assembly with all the stuff. And we keep getting more bubble wrap and more tape. And so it was like days and days of mailing things. But that's a good problem.
Back when you started the label, what was the first release to have a similar sort of quick sale?
The Circle Jerks was pretty popular, I got to say. But, I'd put an ad in Flipside. I didn't really do any mail order. It was me, my sweet Pinto, and I would drive it all over town. Like there was a Rhino Records in Westwood.
Yeah.
Zed Records was in Long Beach. So I didn't go everywhere, but I sold to Gem. Gem was already there, if you guys know it. Gem was like a huge distributor that folded. One of the first ones that really burned me for a ton of money. But I'd load up the car on Friday when I got, go to Rainbow, Santa Monica, and go take them around and stuff like that. So it was kind of fun, but not fun.
What was the perception of a woman out there selling punk rock records to all of these places? Was it accepted? Was it weird to them?
I don't think people even then knew that it was a girl. I don't think people really knew, and people still don't that much, which is cool.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, Lilith Fair, man. So it is cool when I can tell somebody I put out, I can tell somebody I was like, yeah, my arc was Circle Jerks, TSOL, China White, and people go like, what? But I don't, I mean, to me personally, I don't feel like people necessarily know who I am. Maybe some people do. So that's cool. They'll think I'm like, oh, Corey, he's a dude, or Ian Kai, dude, but I don't know how many people are hip to it. You tell me.
Well,
but I don't think anybody thought it was like an issue or anything special or anything. They just be like, eh.
How hostile was the scene? Like, because you were very much like West Coast hardcore. And then that was kind of the time when like Black Flag and Minor Threat and like all of those guys kind of were like doing one of these. So like, I
know it was a very dude scene. That's for sure. Yeah. Glenn Friedman is putting together a movie of his books, Fuck You Heroes.
Yep.
And he's like, I don't remember any girls being in the hardcore scene. And I was like, I can't either. There really wasn't that many women in bands.
Yeah.
And fanzine wise, like there was the 70s punk rock kind of was very female friendly, but hardcore was very much I don't know if it was macho, but anyway, it was very much a guy thing.
Yeah.
Not a lot of girls doing the circle pit because it was just too violent. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things. I can't point to it like, we weren't welcome because I was there and I had a blast, but I don't. Maybe the music didn't appeal to, and none of the dudes were like super foxy or whatever. I don't know.
So true. I mean,
it's true. Girls tend to head for the cute lead singer. Like I don't like Ian. I like Guy.
Yeah. Were there any other labels or promoters that were like welcoming or like helped you out and like? Kind of like,
definitely everybody. Questions? I think everybody tried to help each other out. But, Greg and Susie Shaw were my big mentors in life. And they're like super helpful. I mean, even while I was working there, I was using their staff to, design my album covers, with me and taking time out of their bump pay and stuff like that to, one of their art guys did my logo and all that. So they were super helpful. I'm trying to think at that point, who else? Steve at Rainbow, I would say, just rescued me at the time. And he would understand if Gem went down that I needed more credit or more time to pay.
Right.
So if he had ever called his chips in, I would have died a long time ago. So he would, he'd work with me to be like, okay, I know Gem just, burned you for 6 figures. So I'd be like, okay, good. I mean, I couldn't wait too long, but
that's painful.
It was pretty nice. But it was just like a continual process of waiting for somebody to fold.
Right.
Mergers and acquisitions, the 80s.
Or just Coke or, whatever. Yeah, just like, oh, no. And the worst thing is when they start a label, they start their own label, all the money comes out, all that money and starts putting out records that don't sell. So all you got to do is wait and they'll fold.
Yeah, totally.
What advice do you have for surviving as a label for all this time?
Well, I have very, very good taste. So there's that.
Bingo.
But it's mostly just being able to, keep everybody happy, no matter how good or bad things are going, spread whatever money you have around. Cause, unless you get an investor, it's, you're never going to be, you're never, ever going to be in the chips. So Get on the phone, let people yell if they want to yell at you, or yell.
Yell back. Always
yell back. Yeah.
Always yell back.
I'm disgruntled, but yeah. I still liked, for a long time. I mean, I haven't done it, probably the last 10 years. I still really liked selling at like flea markets and stuff and just talking to people and, pressing the flesh. I can't remember what it was called. They had it 2 Octobers ago, and they just, indie labels came from all over, and they did it at the Mocha Museum in Little Tokyo.
Oh, awesome.
That was super fun, and everybody brought out rare stuff. So I just dug through the garage because I used to sell at flea markets. So I was like, I have original Go-Go's badge. I just had all kinds of junk. So that was really fun. But it's good to like meet actual people. When we do Frontier shows with a bunch of bands, I sell merch. Me and Julie will be out there selling merch. And that's fun too.
And is it just the two of you?
Yes. And I wish I could afford her full time, but we get a lot done in the days that she's here. And I'm pretty much always working, no matter what it is, it involves work in some way or another. So
how did you meet Julie? She
was an intern. We put up, like little index cards at Northridge College where I proudly flunked out of there. And so we put up in the radio station, we put up little cards looking for interns. So her and her best friend, Doug, came as a Matt set. And I was living in a different place than this now. And, they had the Xerox thing. So they would just sit out there and giggle. They would just giggle and giggle. And I was like, I don't know what's so funny, but they got all their work done and whatever I asked them to do, and they did it fast. And then she stayed on, and she was our like retail person. And while she was doing that, she was going to UCLA. And you should yell at her, Jen. She's this close to getting a PhD, but she refused to do her thesis.
What?
And I was like, what are you doing? Your mom would want to see you hang up the piece of paper. And she's like, I'm not driving to UCLA anymore. I'm totally over
these things I'm learning.
But thank God for her, because I don't know what's going on. I'll be like, what's the password to stamps.com? And she'll be like, I'll do it. What do you want done? I'll do it. So I don't have any idea how anything works at all. I'm totally a figurehead. I'm like a statue. I don't know what's happening.
I don't believe that one for a second. Sorry.
It's sad, but it's true.
I have a suicidal tendencies question.
Okay.
If I can ask it, if you'll indulge me. So that was one of the first like MTV hardcore music videos. How did that impact Frontier?
The record was doing pretty well on K-Rock, which is it was a huge LA station. Yeah. It got a decent amount of play, and it was kind of becoming known.
Yeah.
But when that video came out and MTV picked it up, it was absolutely insane. Like I couldn't even keep up with it. And I think at that time, maybe 2 people worked here besides me. And we were just frantic. Like it was absolutely madness. And speaking of, at least there was quick turnaround times then.
Yeah.
Because I never could afford to order 10,000 or 20,000, but whatever we ordered was like gone, like just gone right away. And then they were on stuff like Miami Vice.
I was just going to say, that was my follow-up.
Yes.
Did the Miami Vice appearance have the same impact?
It was like everybody saw it. It was so weird. It's like everybody saw it. And if you're a train spotter, I went with them to make sure that Mike didn't beat anybody up. So I flew. But by the way, Miami Vice would not pay for any of their travel stuff. So I had to fly them to Miami Beach but they were trying to make them wear like Miami Vice clothes. And I was like, oh no, they're not wearing any salmon shoes, no socks, no. So, and Mike had gotten in a fight and he had a cane. And I was like, oh my God,
oh, man,
what is going on? But it was really fun. It was like, they just shot that scene in one day and it was super fun. Anyway, there wasn't enough young people. I was young then, but there wasn't enough young people to dance. Yeah. So they were importing them from all over Florida.
Amazing.
And they still had like blank places. And they're like, you get up there. And I was like, no way. Anyway, they stopped everything until I got up and pretended to like groove to Institutionalize, which is ridiculous.
So if that was your like Bruce Springsteen, Courtney Cox moment.
Can you imagine if like Mike, pull me out of the audience and just pushes me back down or whatever.
Yes.
I'm also an extra in Up in Smoke, so get out the pause.
Oh.
You can see me. They have this whole, if you ever seen Up in Smoke, there's like a whole thing where a bunch of weird people are waiting to get in to see Alice Bowie. Oh my God, it's the stupidest thing. But everybody in LA was there. Screamers, Mumps, The Quick, like all the bands were all in line. So you had to be in that scene.
Tommy Chong's from my hometown. So he went to high school in Calgary, which is where I'm from. So
oh wow.
We're like, you and I are like this already.
That's right. It's true.
What kind of new music are you into now? Like,
oh my God, you want to see all the records that I have to listen to? I bought a turntable for my living room because I'm too lame to figure out the whole sending it places, like having whatever. So I'm going to show you. I don't know if you can see it. That pile there without the wine is all like, I need to listen to all those albums. But right off the top of my head, I'm always discovering stuff that I didn't know was around, like the Hunches and all these bands. God, I'm going to put out a record by the Flatworms because I love them. Drag City always has bands I like. There's always millions of bands that I dig. And
we talked about our Flatworms love.
Yes, Flatworms are phenomenal. And what other new bands am I listening to? I forget. It's funny. Oh, by the way, I have a streaming radio station that everybody should listen to.
Which is?
KXFU.
Oh.
Have you guys heard of the Gorillatones?
Mm-mm.
They're from Australia. They're super rad. I love Carla Easton. What?
I think Henry Rollins played him on his Fanatic show one time.
Oh, that's probably true. And also, he always plays Beachwood. They're super rad. Mm-hmm. Beachwood are great. I love the aforementioned Stiff Richards. Australia's got it all happening. Like it's all about Australia. Like back to the pop era, like the late 70s, early 80s. Like Australia is like happening.
Bryce is nice. That's one of those really sweet labels from.
Oh, I'll tell you who I love.
Australia, right?
I'm super fangirl geek for Bronwyn Brent. I don't know if you ever heard of her. She's a lady singer songwriter, but she is absolutely great. She lives in Missouri now. I don't know where I think she's from Mississippi, but she reminds me of, I don't know, if Chrissy Hynde without the Pretenders. She's great.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
So, and I always got my Shazam open. I'm listening to TV shows. I'll be like, what's this song? This is amazing. Because even, like music supervisors have to be so hip. Half the time you don't even get a hit.
Yep.
Like it's so new or unheard of. Like it doesn't even have any metadata in it. And I was like, damn you.
I know. Yeah.
I must have this record, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have another question about Christian Death and the originators of goth.
Love.
Also, you and I have another connection in Ed Culver.
Oh, how do you know Ed Culver?
So I was showcasing my Black Flag collection on my Instagram, and
wow!
Oh, hey, I shot the cover for Damaged, and then him and I like went down a crazy wormhole, and I went to his house in 2018 and hung out with him for the day, and like
I just dropped off records on. I didn't chuck them over the wall, but we did an Ed Culver Christian Death 45, like a gatefold thing. So we ran out of the autographed ones, and I knew he wouldn't be up at 8 a.m. Like, no way. So I just like dropped them over the fence so that he could sign them with the Sharpies and everything. But I've known Ed. Oh my God. The first album cover I ever did was not the Portraits of the Adolescents. No, Circle Jerks. That was his first record cover ever. Yeah. He shot that. He didn't know that was going to be the cover, but he had done promo shots of the band. So he's like, what do you think about this picture? And we're like, perfect. Because we didn't know it should go on the cover. So
he's the man. I mean, between him and Glenn Friedman, like it.
And they hate each other.
I know. And it's so
awesome. They hate each other's guts.
It's punk rock.
That guy's a hack.
It's punk rock as fuck, for sure.
I'm just going to be Switzerland. You guys have been saying this for 40 years. But you have to admit that guy's terrible. No, I'm not going to admit that guy's terrible.
The photos that they have are iconic. It's
just insane. And it's fun to tweak Ed when I see, you get stuff in your Instagram feed of, bootleg t-shirts. They always use the kid flipping upside down, get Ed all upset.
Oh yeah. The Vans cover. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
So
did you see the uprising of the goth movement with Christian Death happening, or were you
No, I didn't. I felt like I was really taking the chance. I really liked the record Hell Comes to Your House. And, but because Rick was in the band, I knew the songwriting would be quality. At the time, I wasn't that sure about Roz's voice. I liked it, but I wasn't sure how the record would go over. And, but Frank Agnew, who was in the Adolescents, was like, this is going to be huge. And I was like, it's kind of edgy because they did these weird things they called them art shows where they would get an empty storefront and just make noise and just it wasn't really a gig per se.
Right.
So anyway, the whole thing seemed like a really insane package and Roz I only met him a couple of times before we made the record and he didn't even really speak. He was very, he was a few years younger than me, but he didn't really say anything. And, James was very effusive. So I was like, And again, we made the record in like 3 days or 4 days. And who knew?
Yeah.
And the Lord just builds. I mean, my version of the band didn't really play that many times before Roz ran off to, live in Europe and play with Valor and stuff. So it's just everything super legendary about that period. But that record is, went from total stiff to being like one of the best sellers. Thank goodness. Because everybody's got to be a goth when they're a teenager.
Or now.
Gotta be, now more than ever, gotta be a goth.
Goth life.
Me with my upside down cross on
There
my
you
cardigan.
go. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm still telling my mom it wasn't a phase.
Yeah, waiting for you to grow out of it. Nope.
That's fine. If you could choose and make a custom split 7-inch, any band on the A side and any band on the B side, what would your dream 7-inch be?
Wow,
It
that's
doesn't have to be a
one.
Frontier band either. It can be.
Yeah. It would probably be like the Hoodoo Gurus on one side and Moto on the other side.
Okay.
I should pick some of the females right now anyway, but
Oh, no. I mean,
I got to go with melodies every time. So whenever I'm in a bad mood, I put on the Hoodoo Gurus and then I feel good all over again.
love it.
And they're kind of positive in a way for as cynical as they are. They're kind of, one time I met Dave, what's the lead singer's last name? Anyway, whatever. One time I met him and he insisted that he wasn't him. Oh, you're the Hoodoo Gurus. And he was like, no, I'm not. And he had the giant afro.
No.
Come on. Anyway, but I saw them. I went to Madrid the Christmas before this Christmas. And they were incredible. They played 2 hours. Audience wouldn't let them go. Like absolutely amazing. But I never really put out a lot of 7 inches because I like to make money. I mean, they're nice to put out there and they're like a cool promo thing, but it basically setting on fire. But I love reissuing the original things. I've done a few of those. Well, first of all, I license and have in print the whole Danger House catalog, and those 7 inches are incredible. And Munster put out all of them in a box set.
I noticed you have a couple of the Damned reissues too.
I did.
Yeah.
Stiff sold. It's like a whole chain of things. I had them for a while. I actually knew the Damned just because we would go up. Like in those days, you could just go up to the band and be like, "What's up?" And we'd drive them all over. Yeah, and then I'd be like, "Hey, remember me?" And so somewhere down the line in the late 90s, I can't remember what year I put out Damn. Anyway, it was somewhere in the 90s. But their label, Stiff, was sold to something, wound up on Sanctuary, so I lost the license.
Oh, okay.
But I only put out Damned and Music for Pleasure, and then they gave me like a live record that was terrible, and I didn't even put it out on vinyl.
Oh, shoot.
What did you ask me a question after that? I forgot.
A
day in the life.
What a day in the life.
Day in the life. I wake up. I read. Right now, I have 6,000 unread emails. Yes, they're not all important. But anyway, get a lot of emails. Throw out everything that I can. It is insane. I didn't just spend an entire day just throwing out emails. So I weed out all the huge offers. No, but you get licensing offers. Somebody will want to, oh my God, I don't want to jinx it. Okay, I can't say it. Yeah, my favorite franchise in the entire world is Jackass. So there will be a Frontier song, and I won't say which band or which record, but I could not be a bigger fan of Jackass. So when the thing came in my email, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going to die right now.
Johnny Knoxville forever. Oh my God.
I used to run into once in a while. I'm not sure he still lives in LA, but I'd see him at Bevmo or I'd see him eating in a restaurant. I never bothered him. But so anyway, you weed through that stuff. Then, oh my God, it just goes in a million directions. You're like, what are we at? And Michael called me up and be like, these are my last 5 Christian Death. How fast can you get them? And then I'd be like, 4 months. And I'd be like, no, unacceptable. I need them sooner than that.
Hey, Jen.
I need them right now. Yeah. Hey, Jen. And then I need them now. So, okay, 2 months. And they'll be like, oh, God. So there's a lot of that happening. Right now, somebody's trying to build our websites. There's a lot of back and forth about what, style and all that kind of thing. I mentioned we're doing the double Christian Death for a box set. So explaining that to my graphic artists, like the nightmare of like one record's the same and then there's all this other stuff on that. And so mostly I'd say it's production, art, and then I used to go out almost every night. There was bands to see here virtually every night. So I should have accomplished much more.
Yeah. So are you still kind of like the go-to for A&R? Like you're just like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing.
There was times when I won't say which records, some records were my employees' ideas and just didn't really go that well. So I never do that anymore. I'm like, no, it all has to be something that I want to lose my own money on and not, blame it on someone else.
Yes.
So I think that's good advice though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're going to have the label, don't, like I've worked here long enough, I can suggest something that you're not sure of. And those were always the fiascos. And I didn't like the bands either. So like, no more of that.
Yeah.
But I'm actually putting out 2 new bands, the aforementioned Flatworms that Jen mentioned, and then another band from LA called the Flash Hits. And that probably early next year. I should really get moving on that. Because even our lead time on just a sales book is 90 days. And then, the whole cutting it and everything is another century. So I need to get on it.
Yeah, I mean, all those lacquer cutters are pretty indentured right now.
Things were going like not a super lag time. Well, of course, Record Store Day just screws up everything. But it wasn't taking me that long to get something cut, maybe 2 weeks or a month. But now that's out the window.
Are you finding that was Record Store Day like a boon for Frontier, or you're kind of just like, whatever?
Well, I don't want to badmouth anybody. It's really good they're promoting stores, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it just makes things like a nightmare. Somebody's actually ringing my door. Can you pause this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God, I can't believe somebody's ringing my bell. It's Julie's here.
Oh my God, Julie.
Hey, Julie. It's Jenn and Robyn.
Hey guys.
What's up?
How are you?
Look how safe we are. We're wearing masks.
Safe.
I can finally put a face to the name.
Yep.
20,
sort of.
25% of your face to her
A quarter of your face.
Got to see the mysterious Julie a little bit.
She comes in like a ninja and she leaves like a ninja.
Yep. Comes and goes. It must have been something important that she got in the mail.
I love it.
So where were we before all that?
Flash Hits.
The Flash Hits, they're actually from the East Coast, and they were a band called Sounds of Kaleidoscope, and now they're the Flash Hits.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
And how did you discover them if they're from the East Coast?
Well, they live here now, and they were big friends of Kurt Keasley's.
Okay.
So Damien, the singer-songwriter, guitar player, everything, he silk-screened the In the Presence of Nothing thing. So, they kind of show up together and match set and be like, oh, you're in a band too? So, yeah. And hopefully Kurt will record some new music because we've run out of his old records to put out. So hopefully he'll make a new record.
That's what it's all about. Lighting the fires and kicking the tires.
That's right.
Get out there.
Yeah, I really want to go to concerts again, but who knows? Who knows?
I know. Things are still getting canceled. Like they'll pop up and they get canceled. Yeah.
Newfound Glory.
I know people keep trying to book things and book things. And what'd you say, Robyn?
I said Newfound Glory is playing in Florida this weekend.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
It might be a little, I mean, especially because they're pretty popular. It might be a bit soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, from what I've heard, my friend Brian is their guitar tech, and it sounds like they've got it all protocoled and podded and whatever. So like people in pods, which, I mean, that harkens back to the 60s sci-fi right there, doesn't it? Pod.
I just don't see how when you've had a couple drinks, I don't know, who's going to be the cop that has to go like, hey, you guys stand too close. Like, nobody's going to be into that. I know I'm not.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that should be interesting. Stand on the tape.
Right.
No moving around. I don't know.
This is your dancing space. This is my dancing space.
Do not flail your arms.
Yeah.
Do not yell things. Do not yell request. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be kind of weird.
Lisa, here's another question then. Because of like the inability to tour and play shows and things like that, do you think that it would be a potential for Frontier and some of your bands to maybe do singles and do sevens to like, in the absence of like being able to road test new songs?
Well, here's the thing. It's a 90-day lead time for our sales book.
Yep.
So it's not even at that point, it's not very spontaneous, or, you know, there'll be an old band by that time, like somebody bigger than me will have stolen them by then. But I don't know. And the amount of time to cut it and press it and all that stuff, it's just like, it's hard to do some off the cuff thing. But actually, you know, it's weird. We got asked to, I don't know why they thought of me and liquor in the same breath, but somebody's putting out a line of really groovy cocktails in a can. And they're like, oh, we've been thinking about doing a cross promotion. If you put out 45 and, you know, if somebody buys it, then they get this record. And I was like, oh, you know, that sounds like a really cool idea as long as you don't need it right now. And they're like, there's not really a time frame on it. And they're good because it'll be next year. And they're like, oh, so it gives you more time to plan. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, for people that don't know, when you say you have a 90-day sale time, like what does that mean?
Oh, okay. So you put a sales book out, even if it's not paper anymore, like it was in the good old days. So, well, you know, you make a sales page and you put all the, you know, the barcode and this record's great. You should buy it. Bullet points, you know, colored vinyl, you know, 180 gram, whatever. So that gets sent around. You email that around to all of your stores and distributors and take orders for 90 days. It seems excessive, but even with that much time, people don't order it until like a week before, you know, the week that they have to put their orders in.
Are you already starting?
We have to have it in our warehouse a month before the street date. Say it's April, whatever Friday is. Then we have to have it in the warehouse a month before, or Mike loses his mind, and then he ships it to everybody. And then they have it sitting right there.
And are you already starting the cutting and plating process at that point? Like your
90 days. Well, now that it takes, you know, maybe 4 or 6 months, 90 days ahead, we already should be way ahead of the curve and have, you know, all the art designed and pretty much everything in place. You know, 90 days is nothing compared to 6 months. So
yeah,
you should way have it. But yeah, you should way have everything ready by 90 days before the record's coming out.
Yeah, I find a lot of people don't. They'll announce it and do all of that.
Yeah.
And then
just amazing. Yeah, just amazing what they think. And then
somehow it becomes Friday.
It becomes Jen's problem when they haven't, like, what? But I said it was going to come out April 12th. What do you want me to do? You know, well, I can't move mountains for you. Oh, we were talking about, I don't know if you want to pause, but we were talking about record store day. You know, it's really great. They're celebrating records and record stores and vinyl, but that's all people, in my opinion, that's all people want right now. So it just really makes life a hell scene. And I don't even put out any record store day stuff because it's just tough enough without adding misery to it by, you know, trying to make something special and have it done the year before. So that, you know, and, you know, yes, it's not April anymore. It's June or July. I don't even know what it is this year, but.
There's two. There's one in June 12th and July 14th or the 17th or something like that.
Hey, come on. Just, you know, and you can't fit anybody in the store until things are 100% open. You know, you should, I don't know if you guys have heard about the lines at Amoeba. People are waiting like 3 and 4 hours to go to Amoeba. I mean, you're like, you know, the weather's nice. You're not going to get snowed on, but it's like, so you add record store day to that. It's like, just have one, maybe August, just have one, split the difference between November and whatever. Yeah, but it's not my problem. Anyway, I stopped putting out new records for that because it was just such an ordeal. And a lot of stores that I talked to, people in stores, they just stopped even participating in it because it was just too frenetic to deal with the whole thing. So yeah, that's where I'm at. But good for them.
I mean, it seems like you're pretty plugged in with your crowd anyway. So I mean,
but you know, again, the majors are putting out a different color of Born to Run. It was like, so what? You know. They don't have standards for them. Like, no, that's not going to be one of our hot releases because who cares? Right. So it if I was going to put out 5 new Frontier records, they'd go, okay, well, pick one. I'd be like, but I just spent all this money.
Yeah.
So I just don't bother. That's my attitude towards it.
I mean, it seems like it's been working for 40 years. So,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it gives you a little extra oomph and money and some kind of attention. But now there's such a glut of records. I don't even know if anybody would really care. So,
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we just did this panel. Jenn and I just moderated a panel on Sunday, and I think what was this statistic? Like 9.2 million records or something like that.
It was crazy.
It was bananas.
That sold or were pressed?
No, that's sold in like over last year or something like that. You guys talk. I'll see if I can find the stat. 1 second.
You Google that, but it's funny because I mean we still press CDs because people buy them in Europe, but you cannot give them away. I'd be like, Mike, should we make CDs on the Lilies? He's like, don't bother. Like it's like LPs were what the majors try. We never had LPs out of print, but it's like that when the majors were, we just want to sell CDs. We don't want to deal with vinyl.
That's so crazy. The year to date is 9.2 million.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's why the 6-month lag time.
Totally.
But, you have COVID and you have, I guess the pellets are running short or whatever. I don't know what the hell happened there.
Yeah.
But just a mighty convergence of hope you guys are patient.
That's the one reason that I'm so glad that I cut directly onto plastic. So I'm just like, I'm out of the entire lacquer scenario. And I'm just like,
but then you got to add the also double magic of when the plant here, Apollo burned down, wake up in the morning, turn on the TV news, blah, 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 burning. And I go, wow, it's a big fire. And then said Apollo. Yeah. And everybody I know is like, oh my God, because some people were getting from Japan, but most people got their stuff at Apollo. We're like, what does this even mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we're still finding out.
Rainbow closing like 6 months after that too. Like it was like the 1-2 punch last year. Or like
it was literally one thing after the other.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, it was constantly just like every day was different. Where can we plate today? Who's still open? Yeah. Where are we going to get lacquers from today? Literally, like day by day.
I called John Golden, Diana John Golden the next day. I was like, do you guys like have lacquers, or how fast should I get all my orders? And like, do it right now. If you have anything, do it right now because we're going to run out. And I was like, oh shoot. And then rainbow closing, I'm still suffering the side effects of that, as Jen well knows. Where's my mother's? I don't know. And then when you do make test pressings, they were scratchy, like something happened to them. They weren't scratchy before, but now they got a big mark in them and you got to recut it. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. I may or may not have seen stampers in manila envelopes. And I was
the stampers we just threw out because stampers just don't even work. You know what I mean? They're just trash anyway. But I never thought my mother's would have huge gouges in them. How did that happen? What am I going to do? Sue Rainbow? Like, they're gone now, so you just have to recut everything and lump it. So last year, just 2 thumbs up. Just everything was just all the way, moving all the stuff to furnace, and where is it? And I don't know what's happening, and there's no lacquers, and so
and persevering regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that things sell because I'm sure it tanked a whole bunch of labels that I don't even know how many labels. Just like restaurants or bars or whatever, like. We're not going to recover from this stuff, or maybe someday.
Do you think being lean and mean helped you?
Oh, definitely. My overhead can't get any less. I mean, we're working out of my house, so
totally.
The overhead can't get I don't know where to cut back, work outside or something. But the total lack of lots of employees that have to come and go or anything. Like it's just us. And I mean, it's tough when you work in your house because you don't want strangers in there. It's like, thank God for her, because I don't want you don't want weird people coming over that breathe funny or laugh horrible snorting noises. Like you don't want any of that.
Mouth breathers and chewers.
Crunchy chewers. Let's watch Fox News. Get out.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
So we can't cut back any more than we have. So that's all I got.
That's punk rock right there. I mean.
Right there. I had an office. There. I mean, I used, there was one point where we had 5 people people, I had people in New York and stuff, but it's, the music business has been collapsing ever since the 80s. Has been like folding in on itself. So I just got my piece of the rock, fingers on the rock.
But you always have a vision and you know what you want to. I mean, it's always easy, you and Julie come in, you're like, we want this many, we want this color, we're doing this. Put it in our
pipeline, and we want it now. We're like Veruca Salt, and I want it right now, not 6 months from now.
And we're buddies, so you're going to do it faster.
Yeah, we're pals. So you get to shove everybody out of the way. But anyway.
That's good.
You don't do that, but if they would, that would be cool.
I mean, everybody needs a little trip and fall every now and again. Yeah. It's all good. Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen has plenty of money. He doesn't need to press more records.
No, he's got a podcast.
He's got a Broadway show. He'll be fine.
I feel like I've asked all my fangirl questions for you.
Well, I could remember stuff, which is nice. What happened?
What about Repo Man? How did that happen?
Oh, you know what? I didn't have a lot to do with that. They came to me for, those tracks. And
was that all in succession? Was it like MTV, Miami Vice, Repo Man, like pew, pew, pew? Or
I can't remember when Repo Man, I don't remember if it was before or after anymore. It's gone, but...
so red. What's it like?
But when a movie's actually good, when they license it from you, is like incredible. And I still love Repo Man. I've seen it 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. So to have 2 tunes in that was like incredible. Even though it was a Circle Jerks, it wasn't really a song of mine, but it was like a band of mine kind of thing. But
I mean, was there a lot of bands that you kind of gave the attaboy to, and then they kind of were like,
in the early days, I just signed people for one record. Yeah. So I was like, if you want to come back and make another record, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. And sometimes I didn't want to work with them. I had an option on Suicidal, but I just felt like we were going in different directions. They were getting kind of metal. Mm-hmm. I was like, you're popular now, go with God. And then other bands, I put out a bunch of Thin White Rope records, a bunch of Fellows records and stuff. So it just depended on the circumstances. But those early bands I just signed on purpose because, being one person working out of your apartment, it was just easier to make a deal, like just this one record and you can do whatever you want, and everybody scattered, and that was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that is kind of not the way that labels kind of are and weren't that way either. Like it was like, 5-record deal minimum.
Right. I know, exactly. It's like 5, we got you locked up, and if you try to go anywhere else, we'll make sure you never record for 5 years. And
so and do you think because you went into it with like, kind of just being like, this is the way I'm going to do it, you weren't like,
I wanted to do everything the majors didn't do. I wanted to be like unbelievably cool. I couldn't give people a lot of money, so just having control over all the artwork. What do you want? People had really stupid ideas, and I managed to talk them out of it. Let's call my record, "Fuck Your Mom" or whatever. Can you really see that at Tower Records? And they'll be like, "Nah, my mom probably wouldn't like that." Okay, we'll think of something else. I had to do it like, let's walk through this whole process of, so.
Well, and that was the days before the sticker too.
I know.
Right. So
exactly. But wouldn't it be funny? I was like, don't think of it as like, wouldn't this be funny? And who knew this stuff? Like, who even knew Group Sex would be in print, 40 years later or anything? Like, I thought it would last for a couple of years, and then I would have to get a job and be like, oh, I still want cough. Okay, cool.
I keep going back and forth about starting a label, because I'm like, ooh, because I feel exactly like you do, where I'm like, I have the best taste in music ever.
Yeah.
And I get to work with so many amazing small artists that put out their own records, and I get to cut.
And you can cut their record too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So I'm like, but I don't want to, everybody's like, oh, well, you got to have digital, you have to have their streaming. And I'm like, no. I just want to do physical releases because that's what I have control over. I don't want to sign them to
if you have a nester, don't borrow money. I always tell people, don't put it on a credit card, don't borrow money. If you have some money, you want to see if you can get it back. That's cool, but don't go into debt. But everybody should. Sure, why not?
Yeah,
you should put out a single, see what's up.
Well, we keep thinking about maybe because we're using the bands that I cut as our intro and outro music.
Oh, okay.
So we're thinking of maybe putting out a Women in Vinyl compilation.
Oh,
Wink. So
we'll talk.
Yeah, that might be a thing, which would be
that'd
super
be cool.
rad.
Yeah.
We just had a band from San Luis Obispo on our last episode, or on our first episode, called Haley and the Crushers, and they're super rad and they're super punk rock. So
Cool.
yeah, they just signed with Robot Kitty or Robot Kitten or something like that. So,
I've heard of that, but I thought it was a production company, but I don't know.
I don't know.
So
the name's familiar.
Yeah, we did 50 lathe cuts for them, and they sold out in 25 hours. So that was pretty
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I sure never heard of them, but people love the lathe cuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting good responses. I like it. Like it a lot. Good career moves.
Good moves.
Thanks. All right.
Well, I think that's our questions.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's...
Thanks so much, Lisa.
Yeah,
if you think of anything else, you know where to find me. Okay.
Thanks so much, Lisa. That was amazing. Thank you for indulging my fangirl.
Totally. We'll talk. You and me will talk. All right.
Yeah, I love it.
I'll bother you tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks again for listening to the Women in Vinyl podcast. We hope that you guys had an amazing time. We certainly had an incredible time talking with Lisa Fancher of Frontier Records today. We want to thank Archivol for our intro and outro music. As always, a great, big, huge, smoochy thank you to Peluso Microphones for making us sound amazing as always. Thank you to Black Circle Studios for keeping this train on the rails. I'll thank myself, Red Spade Records. I'm pretty awesome too. Give us a little review if you are so kind on the Apple Podcast, because that's how more people will find out about this glorious podcast.
For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to follow and subscribe to our Patreon. You can go to womeninvinyl.com and find it there. And thank you again for joining us on the Women in Vinyl podcast.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl, Red Spade Records, and produced by Black Circle Studios. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.womeninvinyl.com.